During the week, electricity meter manufacturers and assemblers in Nigeria say about 40 local companies manufacturing meters may fold up if the government goes ahead to open bids for the production of meters under the $155 million World Bank loan to Nigeria. At a media briefing in Abuja, the association opposed plans by the federal government to use the loan for the importation of electricity meters. The body claims that bids are about to be opened for both foreign and local manufacturers of meters and alleges that the bid conditions favor foreign companies. The manufacturers appealed to the government to step down the bid.
World Bank project, we believe, is inimical to the growth of the manufacturing sector, is inimical to the progress that has been made in the local content policy as stated in Executive Order 003 of 2017, and also it negates the gains that have been made in backward integration, technology transfer. It is a loan being given by the World Bank to Nigeria, and a loan of $155 million for a bid of 5 lots, for bids to be submitted locally and internationally. What then surprised our members was when the conditions of the bid came out. It was clear that the bid, all the performance bonds, the evaluation criteria by way of cash flow, by way of turnover, by way of experience, seemed to be designed to eliminate the local companies. We also observed that the package was such that the foreign companies were to bring in fully built meters. Remember, we manufacture and assemble meters here. We employ people, train them, build production capacity, training capacity.
We need to sit in the table. We need them to take the money and focus on catalyzing our own home economic growth. If you put the World Bank money on the meter manufacturers to handle this, it will do us good in our economy. What will happen is that if we put this money with local manufacturers, what will happen is that at least 60% of this money will be retained in Nigeria. But if you do tenders and give it to foreign companies, they will bring the meters, produce it, it will not add anything. Every day in every different factories, locations we have, people sit down and couple meters, get paid salary.
Before you here are companies that are going to fold, companies that are going to shut down if on Tuesday those tenders are opened. These companies cannot be sustained if tenders are opened on Tuesday. So I'm leaving here to Lagos on Tuesday if tenders are opened to tell my staff that their job have come.
Well, a very serious, knotty issue there to untie. But joining us to look at this issue is Okeke, who is an ESCO member of the Association of Meters Manufacturers of Nigeria and former bank deputy general manager. Very warm welcome to Newsnight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's begin first. What are some of these disadvantages, that your association will face in the bid process? You said it's skewed in favor of foreign companies?
Yeah, just like we've largely said. I mean, we covered most of this in our press briefings. Now, when you make a bid criteria that borders on cash flows, turnovers of companies, and you want the company that we tender to have $26 million. $26 million today is a lot of money. Now, this sector is a nascent sector in Nigeria. The policies of government has properly driven investments in this sector. The policies, very good policies, of NEC, very good policies of the current leadership of NEC, from meter asset provider to what we have right now, has simply encouraged investment to set up factories in Nigeria, investment for backward integration, like we said, investment that we, if properly sustained, we make Nigeria a hub for sub-Saharan Africa in terms of metering. Now, for instance, we have OEMs, whom before now, some of us were just importing. By the time NEC brought out policies of backward integration, supported by Ministry of Finance, every one of us started scaling up, started building capacity to be able to assemble these meters here, instead of importing them fully built. Now, what we are saying is, the moment you open tender at this moment to say, let foreign manufacturers who possibly have more than $26 million turnover in the last 5 years, and the local companies do not have this turnover, that this is one. Cash flows and all those bid criteria, now making bid securities of about $300,000 to $400,000. Now, the question is, in supply of meter and installation of meters in Nigeria, we've been doing it for the past 10 years. Now, what are the critical success factors? The critical success factors are not the issues we have seen in the tender. The critical success factors are, do you have the technology? Are you able to meet the specifications for these meters? We do. We currently do. Every meter manufacturer in Nigeria, every meter asset provider in Nigeria supplies meter to a lot of distribution companies. And those meters meet those criteria.
I was just going to ask you the
Yes.
local capacity. You're talking about 40 local manufacturers.
Exactly.
In fact, it's CKD that
Yes.
you put together.
Yeah.
You don't manufacture any component of the meter.
We do. We do. Now, let me dissect it for you so that you understand what a meter is. A meter is made up of about 30% electronics and 70% plastic. I was going to come with a meter here, pieces it and couple it so that Nigeria will understand what a meter is. A meter is nothing so big that we have to think of making a tender. We understand the bit why government wanted to do this.
It's a World Bank loan.
Now, it's a World Bank loan. I will explain. Now, it's a World Bank loan. Okay, the truth is there are a lot of competing issues here. When this policy was designed, there was meter asset provider. Then when the previous administration intervened, NEC came up with what is called National Mass Metering Project. Now, there was phase 0, there was phase 1, and then phase 2. Now, phase 0 was such that the moment the former president graciously asked government to intervene, CBN came in and said, look, we need to fund every inventory that's available in Nigeria. Asked the manufacturers to declare their inventories, asked meter asset provider to declare their inventories, and what happened was CBN provided 100% funding for that phase 0. And for that phase 0, it was meter asset providers, it was not only manufacturers. It was very good. More than 800,000 meters was installed between November 2020 to about June 2021. Now, what has happened? CBN, in their wisdom of supporting backward integration, of making sure that we build local capacity, enumerated conditions to participate in phase 1. That condition is that you have to be a local manufacturer. CBN said we cannot expend our forex to import fully built meter. Because when you import fully built meters, you don't add any value to the economy. There's no multiplier effect. You can't create jobs. For instance, when I was importing fully built meter, when I started in 2017, I do not have more than 10 staffs. Because the containers will come, we push it to the field and install them. Okay, because they're fully manufactured. Now, CBN, in their wisdom to support backward integration, which was also supported by Ministry of Finance, and also superheaded by Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, with deliberate policies, said we need to only encourage people that can set up factories so that we can create employment. So that this funding, not only to close the metering gap, we now catalyze investment for growth.
Nigerians are really interested in closing the metering gap. 2017, someone like you went there, Central Bank of Nigeria, backward integration, that was during Godwin Emefiele's time and the rest. And 40 local manufacturers emerged from this.
Good.
What is the production level and the gap in the supply chain system for metering the homes of Nigerians?
Thank you. Very quickly, at that time, the estimated metering gap was about 6 to 8 million meters. Okay? And NEC, in their wisdom, quickly, we need to close 6 million meters. Then CBN said, let's do phase 1, local manufacturers. Immediately, before this happened, before this policy happened, people like us who were only importing, we knew where the economy will go. We started building factories, started buying equipment to make sure that we can bring components and couple in Nigeria. That was about 2019, 2020, even before the national mass metering happened. When national mass metering happened and, we saw deliberate policy to encourage it, people started scaling up. Now, at that time of talking about 6 million meters, the plan was this. Phase 1 will be about 4 million meters. Then there was phase 2 that was designed to be funded by World Bank. Let nobody get it wrong. From the beginning, it was going to be funded by World Bank. But what we looked forward was that the 4 million meters and the capacity of local manufacturers, okay, was adjudged to be more than 4 million meters. So about 80% of the capacity was the 4 million meters that was allocated to many manufacturers according to their own capacity. What has happened now is that that very 4 million meters has not been executed. Okay?
Why is that?
For some reasons. CBN is not forthcoming with the fund. And I will tell you, I mean, many issues, of course, Nigeria, our financial state is very difficult, but this is something that Nigeria needs like yesterday. If we don't close the metering gap, we call ourselves power sector revenue assurance. Why do we say that? Because we are the ATM of the power sector. When you generate power, transmit power, distribute power, is at the end of the distribution when the power gets to the customers that customers have to pay for them. To end the estimated billings, you have to put meters in customers' house so that for revenue assurance. So if you don't meter people, revenue assurance is very doubtful. So what has happened? Since CBN didn't fund it, those allocations were made in November last year, 2022. 7-8 months after, no funding. NEC leadership in their wisdom gone back to rework funding, possibly come up with what they now call metering fund. It is still in the works. Now, so our issue is that you have awarded us 4 million meters, and now it has not taken off. Funding has not come. Now you are bringing World Bank phase 2, and now you want to make it open to every company abroad, people that have not made any investment.
Was the phase 1 even very successful? You just talked about some of the hiccups.
No, phase 1 has not even started.
It has not started.
So if it has not started, mind you that our members made huge investments. If I use myself as an example, I told your people when they come for the press brief, I said the next thing we are going to do, we are going to be taking you guys physically to the factories. For instance, I have a factory in the industrial area. It is a 10,000 square meter feet space of factory. We are already building on 5,000. We already have a factory of about 1,000 square meters. Ready meters are being coupled. So what are we saying? What's
your production capacity?
Okay, for
what you have now per month
presently,
or per year?
Absolutely. Now, as at the time, government, because during the phase 0, consultants were hired to go across Nigeria and verify the capacity of every meter manufacturer in Nigeria. It was done extensively. It took some time. For instance, Holy Metering, for instance, at that time had a capacity of about 560,000. Okay? Yearly, yes. If we're going to start production at that time, we are going to churn out, because of the equipment already in place, about 360. Now, because I will give you something. There's something you use to test meters called test benches. As at that time, we had a lot of test benches shipped, coming because of this policy. Now, on ground was 2 test benches. Test benches have position, like 24 position, 18 position, 8 position. We had 20 position test bench of about 2. That means 40 position. What you're able to produce depends on the facilities you have. Between then and now, we have about 8 to 12 test benches. You can imagine how we have scaled up our capacity. Then after doing that, then the phase 1 has not materialized. Then the only World Bank that we're looking at, these people have money, they can fund it. Why do we do? Yes, we need to close the metering gap, but we do not have any reason to import fully built meters in Nigeria anymore. Because I can also tell you, even when we say 40, as at the time of those tenders of phase 1, it was about 30-something. Now the people that brought in equipment investing in this sector is close to 50. So even if you want to close 1.2 million meters gap, I know what happens in China. My company is a company that is existing in China for many years until we took the right to establish it in Nigeria in 2016. They told me how the sector was developed. We can do the same thing. Now, when you are building, when you bring together these metering companies and you have checked the capacity of what they can do, you can give this one 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, 40,000, according to their capacity. Every metering company in Nigeria is already working with an original equipment manufacturer, OEM, and they will bring these components, couple it here. I told you when I was importing meters, fully built meters, okay, I didn't have more than 10 staff. But today, we have a factory in the industrial area with staff strength of at least 100, depending on what we have to deal with. We can even run shift, depending on what we have to deal with. This is the same thing with many factories across Nigeria. Many factories across Nigeria. So we don't need to import fully built meters. The World Bank loan is desirable. We are not fighting it. We are not fighting government. Government has supported us a lot.
But it should be exclusive to the local manufacturers.
We should catalyze our economic development. You cannot go and set up a company in China or import something. Let's build our economy. What is in a meter? The technology, we have gotten it. We need to build technology transfer. We need to build our own industrial capacity. The World Bank funding is nice, but World Bank should look at the local economy. The World Bank are the ones giving us a lot of things about our economy. I mean, and we have a new government right now doing very well, everyone must say. In the initial steps, a lot of things, good decisions. Now, World Bank is telling us a lot of things. So how can World Bank be telling us how to build a good economy? And World Bank is giving us a loan to give to foreigners to import meters to us.
A lot of irony there.
A lot of ironies.
Let's just hope that the authorities
are listening
and taking very